Picture this for a second. You've had your heart broken so many times, and now all of a sudden, just when you thought you gave up on relationships, that person comes along that you've been dying to meet. They treat you like gold. You're always there for each other. Whenever there's some sort of a disagreement, you guys can figure it out as teammates. It's so easy and effortless. It feels like you're on cloud nine. And it's something where it's not just a mere infatuation, because months go by and you're still crazy in love with each other. And it feels like, can relationships be this easy? Maybe there's something that's too good to be true. But I can tell you right now, a relationship like that can exist. And we're going to talk about how finding peace in your relationship is extremely important to getting to that point. What's up, YouTube family? David Medawar here. Today, we're going to talk about how your relationship should be bringing you more peace and joy in your life and not just anxiety. And so we've all had some sort of heartbreak in our life, I'm sure, and that's why you're here. I've been there too. And it's not easy. Dating has never been easy, and I feel like it's gotten much more difficult than it used to be. People are afraid. You've got men saying shit about women, women saying shit about men, and it's not helping the cause. But we haven't been going about it the right way, because from what you've seen a lot of advice on, there's a lot of toxicity out there. You've got people name calling, slandering their ex. And I can understand where they're coming from, because when we're hurt, we really are just in the midst of those emotions, and we're trying to vent and be heard and be seen. And a lot of those needs are unfortunately not met when they were in the relationship, or maybe they thought it was going well and they were blindsided. The person leaves, and now there's a desperate cry for help. I can tell you right now, though, that when it comes to getting a relationship we actually do want, it's not going to be the norm. It's not something where it's necessarily going to be the next person you meet tomorrow at that Starbucks or wherever you go to get coffee or the gym. This is something that's not the normal, because if it were normal, our divorce rates wouldn't be so high. Let me ask you a question. If you were to walk on the street right now, those couples who've stayed together 30, 40 plus years, how many of them would you say are actually truly happy and are still crazy about each other? Because couples that stay together, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy. A lot of times people are afraid to be single, and so they stay together because the pain of that relationship is far less than the pain of experiencing singleness. And so a big part of the point of this video is that if we want to get that relationship that we want, and if we want that relationship to be a source of peace and joy and not a source of anxiety, we first have to understand what peace and joy looks like to us. See, I feel like there's a lot of societal pressure for us to be in relationships because it's somehow a barometer of success. And I used to be guilty of thinking this way too, where I used to have this notion that, oh, if you're in a relationship, the longer it lasts, the more successful it must be. Really? Is that really a barometer? Is that something to give ourselves a pat on the back for? Oh, hey, we made it to 10 years. Or hey, this relationship lasted 10 years for me, and my last one lasted 6 months. That doesn't mean anything. Just because somebody's willing to stay with you doesn't mean they're happy. Same with you. Just because you're willing to stay, you could be settling. And the whole idea of being single is scaring you shitless, where you don't know anything but to rely on that person to break up with you first. To figure out what peace and joy looks like to you, the question is what makes you happy? And I feel like a big part of this problem is that we are deferring that answer to our partners or to being in relationships. See, there's this societal way of thinking that a relationship brings you happiness. There's a whole cliche that, oh, you complete me. No, I mean, we have to look at it from an angle of two complete people come together and they share that completeness with each other. Because if we're looking to that relationship to be our pure source of happiness and joy, we're going to be disappointed when that person leaves or cheats or says something malicious or treats us unfairly. Sometimes we don't know better other than, I want to be in a relationship and I'll finally be happy. We put our life on hold. We put the whole idea of being happy on the burner, and we make it some metric of, oh, when I obtain this, just like a car, just like a job, right? When I make this much money, I'll finally be happy. Why? What if happiness and joy and peace can be a choice? And I know that's easier said than done, because sometimes we're in the midst of that breakup. We're in the midst of that diagnosis. We're in the midst of feeling depressed. Finding peace and joy is something that we need to learn how to do outside of a relationship. And if we're already in a relationship now, we still can do this. I just did a video on having healthy independence in relationships. I just uploaded that this week. Just because we're in a relationship, it doesn't mean that we need to make our partner the only thing going on in our life. You can still enjoy those things that you were doing when they met you. And so when it comes to relationships, there's also this herd mentality that is very damaging. There's a really big stigma against marriage and against relationships in general, where people just kind of joke that, oh, once you're married, you just throw happiness outside the window. You just give up your hobbies, you do everything your partner wants, and you just don't rock the boat. But why? Where did that come from? Where did accepting scraps of happiness for the sake of not being single come from? And that's an answer I don't have. But it's something that we have to look at, because if we just do what society tells us to do, we're always going to be very disappointed. Can being happy in a relationship be something attainable? And the answer is yes. Because what happens is when we attract somebody in our life, we're getting back a mirror of where we're at and the energy that we're putting out there. Happy people will attract happy people. Hurt people will attract hurt people. And I'm not here to say that we need to hold off on dating until we're fully healed. I honestly believe that growing and healing is a lifelong journey. It's something where throughout life there will be disappointments as we go. There may be some traumas. And by the way, if you do want to see my future videos and you like what you're seeing here, feel free to hit that subscribe button. So then how do we find a relationship that brings us peace and joy? If the relationship is the answer to that, it's going to be very fuzzy. Because what's going to happen is we're not going to properly vet a partner. We're going to just go off our emotions. If somebody says the right things, if somebody makes us feel good, we're going to be easily swayed. And then what happens is they might lift themselves up and present to us an image of, oh, I'm finally happy. And now we're putting an expectation for somebody else to be in charge of our happiness when they have their own trauma, they have their own insecurities. Maybe they thought they wanted a relationship and now they don't. And what happens is that everything comes crashing down when they leave, because we put the burden on them to answer that question for us. Versus we are now going on first dates. We don't even know if we want a relationship because we want to make sure, look, I'm already happy. I already have a lot of joy in my life. Is somebody going to add to that awesomeness, or are they going to take away from it? Because at the end of the day, if you're in a relationship that's robbing you of your peace and your energy, the cost of your peace is too expensive. It's really not worth it. It doesn't matter how good the attraction is. It doesn't really matter how good your guys' chemistry is, how good you get along on the good days, how many things you have in common. You got to look at the overall picture. You got to look at, is this a struggle? Is this relationship something that's just weighing on your soul? It's going to be something where you will have tough days, fine. But you get the picture, right? Is that a relationship should be adding to your peace. This is where sometimes being single isn't necessarily a bad thing. There may be a stigma against that in society too, right? Hey, something must be wrong with you, you're single. But I can tell you right now from personal experience that that can be the most wonderful times of your life. You can find those new hobbies, things that really make you happy. You can reconnect with yourself. And that's super important, because if we are looking to our relationship to make us happy, that's the most self-abandoning thing you can do. A lot of times what these issues stem from is a lack of self-connection. If we take time and we actually step away, if it means being single for a bit and finding what makes us happy and dealing with that trauma, dealing with those insecurities, and now we're in a place where we're happy and whole and we don't feel rushed or we don't feel easily won over, and we actually start having standards for ourselves, the level of relationships you're going to find now are going to be out the roof, because here's what's going to happen. Feeling good and feeling at peace can be an addictive thing. You'll get to a point where you meet somebody and you actually start listening to those red flags. You start saying, look, this feels a little bit too difficult for me. This feels like it's going to be a burden. I almost feel like a lazy dater because I want a relationship that's easy. One, I'm willing to put work in, and the other person's willing to put work in, but easy in a sense that things just flow. We're teammates. We work through issues. And it completely changes the perspective on everything. I want to challenge you to do that. Find what makes you happy. Find your peace. Don't look to your relationship for that peace, and bring that to the table. When you're vetting people now, ask yourself this on those first dates and throughout. Ask yourself, is this person good for me? And are they going to add to my peace, or are they going to take away from it? If you like what you guys see here, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinions and some of the strategies that you found really helpful to you. And I'll catch you later. Peace.